I'm a dirty dog. Ha 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 ha. Oh, dirty bastard, go in your jaw. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all. Got the simmy in the hemi going gimme, y'all. Pugilistic, my linguistics, RJ Ruler damage, y'all. And I rap it, pornographic, big set up the camera. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. 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 La la, ah wee wee. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. Come on. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. Covered disruption, I got you covered, I'm busting. My brother's a runner, he crushing, it's no discussion. I used to be Munchkin, I wasn't supposed to be nothing. Why do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
Report live from the upside of America.
Mama let me sip the 40, I was just a shorty. Then I started spitting garlic, and they said record me. I feel like this shit was for me, this shit just my story. Yeah, jump out the porch, I got a porch, I'ma take it back. I'm on the block with the killers and holding my own, of course, yeah. I see my mom and dad separate, ain't talking divorce. Said daddy was living by the fire, and he died by the torch. I'm where the AKs is, we like the baby kids. I listen to suckers the same way that Ray did. I'm telling snippets and HKs and I just was a grade 8 kid. Ain't on no guy and we grew up with hitters and did everything they said. Point out the block, we spinning that.
Okay. We are here. We are live. I think. Yes. Yes, we're good. We're here. Totally. Everything's great. Definitely not running late. On top of all of it, all the time. Just like the pandemic, everything's under control. No need to test because we already know the answer because there's not even a question. We're just great. Just a great place, just a great nation. What's up? I'm Baratunde Thurston. This is Live on Lockdown, episode 26. 26. We just keep making these things. And, I want to start off this episode with some good news and weird news. Straight out the backyard update just from this morning. Elizabeth's out there on the FaceTime with the parents, looking at the peach tree. We got a peach tree. Like, not everything's bad. And, we've been trying to set up this squirrel defense system for months now. I put streamers up there. I clear the ground underneath. I got cameras, surveillance systems. They don't care. And of all the critters in the backyard, like the squirrels are the most intense of them. And so today, like what was different is they had no intimidation whatsoever at the presence of humans. I mean, I was this distance from like here to here. And the homie was just like, what, dog? Like, you do you. I'm going to do me. As soon as you leave, I'm going to come back. So why waste the energy? I'm going to stay right here. Which is your move, bro. It's your move. You want to face these? Because they're like, you see what I do to these peaches. Don't let that be your face. And then I had a choice to make. I'm like, am I about to like go toe to toe, claw to claw with this unpredictable flying creature? No. So I stepped back. It was just like the lady in the Whole Foods with the bananas. That's how I knew it was a pandemic was real. They ran out of kale at the Whole Foods. It was just like that, but no yoga pants this time. Just like a feral beast who got the best of me. And so he wasn't threatening, but I felt threatened. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, do I have to call 911 on this? Anyway, so we just stared at one another. And then I was like, boo. And he's just like, is that all you got? And he like flicked his little tail. And I took the camera and I'm like, what if I do like this? He's like I said, eventually you're going to have to go and live your life. This is my life. So what's it going to be? So he moved around a few times, but like not in any particular rush. Like he knew the whole time he had control of the situation. He's probably making a live show with his little squirrel buddies right now. But like, yo, let me tell you about the great day I just had. I just punked this human. And then he like the best move, he scrambled around a little bit, sort of pretending to run. But I mean, like moving 1, 2 feet at a time, then looking back at me. And then he just leapt off the tree as if to prove that there is no stopping him. Like you can put up the little banners, you can tape the bottom of the tree with like a plastic cone, like you put on your stupid little dogs when their ears are getting all chewed on. But I could fly. And then he just flew from the peach tree to some other tree, and then maybe like 3 leaps up to his little overground railroad, which we call power lines, but he just calls the expressway. And that was that. That was little homie. So it felt good for like those 5 minutes not to think about who the president is, or like if this country's even going to make it intact as like an experiment in multiracial democracy, or how bad the pandemic's going to kick our ass. I was just like, I couldn't think about none of that. It was just me against the squirrel, and the squirrel won. So I just want to show some respect, some deference to the little buddy, who's probably going to be here after I don't live at this place anymore. Definitely was here before me. This land is your land, and I just want to honor that. So thank you for tuning in to my unplanned opening of good news. And then, we had some other good news outside of the world of squirrels, just to acknowledge the Supreme Court, not as wholesale evil as a lot of us were braced for in terms of its decision about not making it illegal to discriminate against LGBT folk in employment, which is really big and way bigger than it is in marriage alone. Like workplaces, everybody's got to work, not everybody's got to get married. And so I was like, okay, Gorsuch, the man who shouldn't even be on the court, like that was a really unexpected verdict on my part by Merrick Garland's understudy, and not bad at all. And then of course the DACA decision, which delays the end of that program. It's still not real immigration reform. We're not going to get that anytime soon. So squirrels, non-discrimination in employment, extending on the Civil Rights Act, and dreamers can stay put with a little less stress for a little while longer. Welcome to episode 26. We're in it. And it's been, yeah. Let me just do a gallery view, get a quick wave, see who all's here. Let's do some. All right. I see you. Oh, Daniel Zala's out there walking in these streets. I'm so invested in your life, Daniel. Like it's ridiculous. And I see some new faces too, and some folks who haven't been around for a while. So as is the custom in these parts, if you want to join, share what your experience has been, what life's like on the ground, whether it's about COVID or uprising related. That seems to be the themes of these shows. Raise your Zoom hand or pop in the chat if you haven't figured out the Zoom functionality. And if you're watching outside of these worlds, hello to the Periscope, the YouTube, the Twitch, and what's the other one? Facebook, right? Facebook was, it's so easy to forget because everything is Facebook now. You can't even like protest Facebook without using something owned by Facebook. It's really all encompassing. Like the British Empire would be jealous across time, as with the Catholic Church. Like, oh, that's how you exercise control over a populace. That's what we call influence. That'll be the new remix. It's like, now that's what I call influence. And it's just a bunch. It's like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Oculus. Just like every track is another property owned by Zuck. There's no killing what can't be killed, and what is dead can never die. That was a remix of like some 90s hip hop dialogue meets Game of Thrones Ironborn. My brain is all over the place. All right, so let me see. I see some hands, and by some hands I mean one hand. So I'm going to come to you, Eliza, ask you to unmute and check in with us. Hello.
Hey everybody. Hey Baratunde. Happy Father's Day to everybody who fathers a living being of any kind, in a good way. Okay, I got a question. So I got all excited about how nobody showed up at Trump's rally in Tulsa. And then I hear all about how K-pop like bought up all the tickets, and I'm like, way to go, like Gen Z, awesome. And then I just got an email from Move On saying Trump is winning. And I'm just like, kill me now. Does anybody, my question is, does anybody know what happened like with the empty stadium, and is Trump really winning?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for asking. I'll put you back on mute. Folks in the Zoom studio, light up the chat if you have intel. I was not there and would just never, ever be there. So I don't have any firsthand information about what happened in Tulsa. I too was excited about this trending news item that teenagers had defeated the most well-funded presidential campaign in history by just reserving seats and not showing up. And there seemed to be a decent amount of anecdotal information that lends some credence to the idea. The K-pop thing, maybe, I don't know. I don't really rock on the TikTok, so I don't know what's happening there. You could tell me that TikTok had like written a new constitution and we had refounded the whole country over there and everybody had healthcare. And we're like, cool, that's great. That probably did happen on TikTok. Like, I don't know how to navigate that space. So I would be really curious about other people's takes, and I'll just kind of wait for that to roll in to see if folks understand what happened. I think the move on email, I can speak to that because I've been abused by progressive email lists for at least 20 years. I don't think I've ever signed up for a single one of them. I think I maybe went to one event in the late 90s and they've just been reselling my email since then. And they find me, it's like door-to-door salesman meets aggressive proselytizer meets like snake oil meets real bad marketing. Like, Move On's not as bad as the DCCC, the folks that run the re-election campaign for House Democrats. They're the worst. They should not be allowed to speak publicly through electronic means. But what you've described as that email, I'll see if I got it too. I probably did. Just sounds like an old feint of trying to scare you. Headline: Trump is winning, and then click this link and give us $10 because your $10 is going to make sure he doesn't. So that my semi-informed take, because I've gotten so many of these emails, is that is their way. It's bait. It's clickbait and it's wallet bait. And it's designed to frighten you. I have pulled up what I can try to say is data from 538, which aggregates all these polls. Because who knows, like Biden 50.4, Trump 41.5. So by that definition, it would be very hard to say Trump is winning. And then you could say like, oh, let's just look at the swing states, which I just heard a report about the other day. And Biden's ahead in every swing state, literally every single one. And then if you look at like Trump approval rating, let me see if I can find that one. How popular is Donald Trump again? So his disapproval is spiking. It is now a 55.2 disapprove. And that's just been a steady increase since March. I'm not sure what happened in March or between March and now, which might have contributed to the increasing numbers of Americans who actively disapprove of the president. If anybody has any ideas, totally open to your suggestions. But it was, his disapprovals jumped from 49.8 to 55.2. His approval has dropped from 45.8 down to 41.4. So the spread is getting wider. So again, based on the information that I've been absorbing, this president is not winning anything. I guess he's winning in a battle for delusion. And amongst his followers, they probably love him even more. And I couldn't bear to like watch the death rally in Tulsa yesterday. I enjoyed some of the Tulsa Block Party, which was mostly just a series of videos of people saying interesting, nice things. And then I switched over to June2020.org, the virtual march on Washington led by the Poor People's Campaign, Reverend William Barber. And that was recently archival footage of a bunch of different events really beautifully woven together, from everyday people up to Cornel West and famous actors and actresses talking about the injustice in this country. And it was a really multiracial common denominator. It was kind of beautiful. It was just much more interesting, I think, than whatever that fool said. So I woke up this morning late, and I read a few things about what happened at the death rally. And I was excited and unsurprised that it wasn't packed to capacity. And I heard that 6 of his staffers who were setting up the event tested positive. And the odds, like, COVID was in the air there. So everybody's inside and they're screaming and they're chanting Sleepy Joe and they got no masks. And probably several of those people are going to die, and they'll take it back to their communities and kill other people. So I'm sure about that part. And then everything else I heard in terms of the words out of this person's mouth, the president's mouth, was absolute nonsense and really Bolsonaro, Brazil level. Like, I guess he's running against the coronavirus now. And he's trying to treat it the same way he treated like the women who've credibly accused him of sexual assault, or the way he treated Hillary Clinton in the campaign, or the way he treated Robert Mueller. And he's trying to win some kind of like meme battle with an infectious disease. And so I guess if he can come up with like the right catchphrase or like the right diss, like Kung Flu, I guess, is the new one. And so I guess the virus is going to get offended by that and deeply intimidated and just run away and allow this president to declare yet another victory. So that seems to be what he's going for. That and like incitement of violence amongst the people he's supposed to be governing and loving. So we'll see how that works out. I'm just kind of exhausted about it. But let me check to see what y'all have been saying. That was my improvised attempt. Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay, all kinds of folks checking in from around the world. That's really nice. But to this point, don't work. Concerned about the Kentucky primary. Vote Save America. Yeah, staying the okay. So Patricia's got an additional point on the move on email. Sounds like they're saying stay on point and don't take T's falling polling percent for granted. Stay the course for voter registration, etc. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I guess, I mean, we've been here before, right? I guess if we rewound 4 years exactly, we would see all these Hillary ahead polls and Trump trailing and people writing him off. And that did not happen. So just practice voting. Everybody, we should just do like a dry run, like when you do like a simulation of like a fire drill, and you make sure, or if earthquake is hit, like a disaster prep scenario. And so you grab your go bag and you like shove your neighbor. You check in on your neighbor and you grab your bag, and you make sure you got, your phone battery charger, whatever your routine is. We should do that for the election. And so just like practice registering to vote and like checking your polling location. Maybe just walk over to the school and make sure it's the right school and that there's still a school there. I'd love a voter simulation thing. So yeah, I can't fault Move On entirely for that. Ooh, and there's a screenshot. Maybe I should be sharing it. Oh, here is the actual image. Right. I wonder, can I get fancy and just like PNG? I'm going to try something because I'm feeling experimental. All right. We're going to do this and then that. Hey, there it is. So, I'm so fancy, except I'm covering my own face. I'll do it like that. So here is the actual email just to prove either that Eliza is really good at Photoshop or better yet, that she knows how to take a screenshot and send it in. Alert, Trump is winning via move. Ignore the polls, Trump is winning. I still don't like the messaging, honestly. Trump is winning is a deflationary, um, fear only inducing message. Like, I wouldn't, if I were in charge of Move On's messaging, I wouldn't lead with alert, Trump is winning. I would say, like, let's ensure victory, or we're so close to reclaiming the country, or don't slack now. Like, something with a bit more motivation. Just to assert Trump is winning just feels like, well, what's the point? Like, it makes everything feel futile. So again, I'm not in charge of it, but those are my thoughts. All right, we got a lot of hands up. Good, because I'm tired of talking. Let's go. Let's see if we have someone who we haven't heard from in a while. Well, I feel like this is one of those congressional hearings where, like, I've already mentioned this person by name, so he has a right to respond. Let's go to Daniel Zoller. Hello, Daniel. Come on if you still can.
Hey, what's up, Airtunde? Can you hear me okay? My headphones?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Going for my favorite little walk here in Palisades Park. I had two comments I was going to share. One political and one in my personal life. Wondering if I should do both, or I'll do both quickly.
Yeah.
So the political one, I was right in the middle of the protests and the looting that happened in downtown Santa Monica a couple of weeks ago. A day I'll never forget. Started with me going to the peaceful protests, ended with just widespread looting and damage to local businesses. And it's been a real journey for me, just kind of coming around in my thinking, really from initial just fear and like what the hell is going on, and just feeling like I was in the middle of this lawless, anarchic state with criminals running around, beating people up. And then lately, still trying to figure it out, honestly, but now hearing messages from local Black business owners saying, look, even if our business was destroyed, we really, we support the cause. Looting is I think there's a Martin Luther King quote, looting is the language of the oppressed, and really just trying to take a more nuanced view to what's going on. And it's still affecting my town. I mean, the National Guard has left, but stores are still boarded up. And I just wanted to share that I've been kind of going through an evolution in my thinking about this whole thing.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it, man. It's really honest, and I think a lot of people are where you are. What's the personal update, Daniel?
Yeah, I knew you'd care more. So the personal one is
looting, shooting, but let's talk about.
Okay, let's get into it. So yeah, I know I've dialed in from Palm Springs the last couple of times, and where I left you last time was things were strictly friendly, and that was true. I wanted to help out around the house, but my friend from Palm Springs is going to be coming down to LA, to Santa Monica, for my birthday, July 4th, and I'm doing a socially distanced birthday pool party. So stay tuned. There could be an update on that front, July 4th.
Daniel, I appreciate you so much. That's Daniel Zoller. Thank you. And Daniel, you should drop the link you sent me into the Zoom chat if you're open to it, about your Actually, let me bring you back real quick. Are you okay for me to talk about this right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to.
So I got this message from Daniel that he had, in his spare time, built a model to assess your personal risk of getting COVID. Dan, you do want to describe what you made here?
Yeah, really, it's a risk assessment tool for the risk of catching COVID and translating into dollar terms. And it was kind of a surprising concept for some people, but I just think there's so much confusion right now about what is safe, what's not. Yeah, they're opening hair salons and gyms, but does that mean it's safe? And I've read a ton about this, about risk. I used to be a quant on Wall Street. I've done a lot of work in risk modeling, and I put together a tool that I'll share the link to, just to help people get their arms around, what's safer, getting on an airplane, going to a restaurant, going to a hair salon. How can I think about that in terms of my own personal risk, the city I live in, the dollar value in terms of, what it's going to cost me if I get sick. So it's a work in progress, but I'll share a link, and, would love to hear what you guys think about it.
Thanks, man. And I actually just dropped the link in the Zoom chat. I realized he's very mobile, so I may not have as easy access to it. So now I'll be your production assistant on this, Daniel. I also put it out over YouTube and all the others. So yeah, check it out. I haven't fully played with it, so this is not like a full-on endorsement per se, but he does he didn't just make stuff up. Like it's based on the head of infectious disease or some medical department at UCSF. And, you know, Daniel just kind of codified his own sort of back of the envelope assessment of it. So play with it. Give me some feedback. Hit me on the text 202-894-8844 if you want to get into it a little bit more. And, you know, on the response to, you know, most interesting, honestly, is your take on riots, looting, protest, uprising. Like, what's the terminology we use? How are we to interpret what's been happening in the streets? And, you know, is it justifiable? Is there any hypocrisy in sort of being pro Black Lives Matter protest, but anti-MAGA rally in the age of COVID, especially? Let me mute all. Okay, somebody had unmuted themselves. So I'm glad to like hear that journey. I don't think there's an easy answer. I also think different pieces of these protests have played out differently. Like some have ended in like widespread property destruction. Others have been very targeted. Some it's like clearly outside agitators. Some it's like, oh, it looks like the same people demanding justice are also busting shit up. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's clearly white agitators. Other times I'm like, oh no, it's a black person, right? And it's all over the place. And sometimes it's just the cops wiling out, shooting tear gas and rubber bullets. I mean, thankfully that level of violence has died down significantly, it seems, in the last week. And yeah, there have been many business owners who are like, you know, destroy my business, essentially, if that's what you need to kind of express yourself and get, feel heard and get some of this energy out. I guess my own probably most generous to property destruction take, and we actually spoke about this a few weeks ago because Jacina came on, is like, I'm okay with a little bit of property destruction. I remember liking that phrasing because like, what are we valuing, life or property? And this country kind of sets them up pretty equally, even in our founding. But I think when I look at the history of how people are supposed to be able to express themselves politically, there has been many effective attempts to silence that political expression. And it's not just about how police aren't held accountable for their actions, though that is a huge component of the current moment. It's also about like gerrymandering and active voter suppression and misinformation and packing and cracking and stacking and like all these tools. And now even the language against vote by mail. And, you know, not just from our psycho president, but from like a whole political party. Well, when more people vote, that's like bad for us. So we should want to discourage that. So you set up this world where the right way to express your political desires is through sort of legitimate small d democratic institutions like the voting franchise. But then you do everything in your power to make sure people can't exercise that. When they do, it doesn't count in a practical sense because the Electoral College also at the national level for the presidential election. So it's you cannot, I don't think, tell people like, make sure you do it this way. And then when they do, they are unable to, or it, for all intents and purposes, doesn't count. That's a setup. That's a lie. And so people can kind of, even if not everybody's thinking on that detailed analytical level, I think the energy of the time we're in is like, obviously the political, like we all know that this president had 3 million fewer votes and it actually mattered. And people go, yeah, the Electoral College, but what is that? And so you start peeling back the layers and it's like, I think maybe you are full of BS. I think maybe that's it. And the response, you know, we'd have to ask ourselves, would Albuquerque be so rapidly trying to reimagine their police force? Would the city of San Francisco be so rapidly trying to set up an alternate unarmed agency to address nonviolent queries to 911 and 311? Would the supermajority vote of the Minneapolis City Council have happened if it weren't for a little bit of property damage? And if it was just like people waiting till November and their primaries to have their voices. So again, that feels like a dishonest setup and follow through, because all the attention is because of the tear gas and the smoke and the numbers, the record-breaking just numbers of bodies in the street. And so I take that true result as opposed to like this idealized result in mind when I think about what is the impact of these protests and who's justified and is it all right. Okay, so that was a lot of words. Let's go back to the hands. I have to close this. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, I'm just gonna mention by name. We're coming back to Brooklyn. I've invoked you, so you have a right to dispute me. Josina Reeves.
No dispute, none at all. Your comments made me think about something that Rachel Cargill has been, Cargill? Is it Cargill?
I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I've only seen it on Instagram.
Yeah, but she's been talking a lot about tone policing on her Instagram feed. And the notion that the only way that you can bring new allies into racial justice work is by being generous and open and kind. That you have to be, you have to send out the message a certain way or people aren't going to pick it up. And I'm struck by that. One of the ways that I'm protesting right now is I read a weekly post on Facebook about something I know to be true or something that's happened to me. And tomorrow's post that I'm working on has to do with face policing. Okay. And it had to do, sorry if I get emotional about this. Not sorry, I might get emotional about this. In my last job, I was a DEI administrator at a school, private school, and I had I made a public mistake. I corrected someone's very public racism publicly. And people didn't like that. And so I had to bring the community together to try to heal the rift that I want to say we had caused, but I'm pretty sure 80% of the crowd was like, you did it. And I worked really hard at that. And then for the next 2 months, people kept stopping by my office to tell me I looked angry. You look really angry. And I spent months either hiding in my office or putting a half smile on my face every time I left my office or went to class to teach so that nobody would think I looked angry. And it was such an effective way to silence me and shut down any further work that it wasn't until May, this happened in November, in May, I was finally able to sort of reemerge and go, you know what, this is some nonsense. But this idea that the only way you can protest or correct something or address something is by speaking perfect English, being gentle and smooth and kind, patting people's backs when they make an effort, is so, it's offensive, but it's also incredibly destructive, because it says you don't have any right to come into this conversation as you are. You only have a right to come in as we want you to be. Yeah. And that's why when somebody breaks a window or shouts through a megaphone in somebody's face 2 feet away, I'm like, do it. Make the noise, break the glass, because how dare the oppressors tell us how we show up to end our own oppression. I have never been good at showing up entirely as myself in moments where I'm fighting for myself. And so I really, really champion those who do, because it's hard. We have been overcorrected our entire time on this continent, and it's too much. It's not good for us. It's not good for how we teach our children. And so, yeah.
Thank you for that. I want to keep you on for a second, because based on everything you shared, I might suggest, or at least ask you, if you want to revise the word you used to describe your initial decision to kind of publicly criticize this act of racism. You called it a mistake. And I'm interpreting that to say, like, kind of in hindsight, given the response, it was a mistake because it caused you more grief and pain. But that initial decision, that feels like even that language, you're policing yourself and saying, like, I made some kind of mistake. How do you feel about seeing that initial moment as a mistake on your part?
I think the mistake I made was I don't think it's a great idea to chum the water when you're not in the cage, as it were. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably a mistake. And that's what I did. I was not in the shark cage when I chummed the water. And, you know, the response that I put out, you know, an email went out to the entire faculty and staff of my school, and I sent an email that was really thoughtful and well phrased and deliberate and pissed everyone off. And I do not regret for the people for whom I was speaking having said it, but yeah, you should probably have some some wire around you before you're like, here's more blood. Like, what?
Yeah,
no.
That's real. That's real. And it's good to be able to see that. It's just, it kind of further, like, you're in this double, maybe triple, quintuple bind.
Yeah.
Right. Because your job, you're a DEI coordinator, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. And so you're kind of supposed to do that. But you have to do it a certain way. And if you're not mindful of the consequences of how you do the thing, then you make your job more difficult. And I'm exhausted just on your behalf years later. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a shorthand for this conversation, which is emerging in my head, and that is, there is no right way to protest in the minds of the people whose power you are challenging.
Yeah.
There's never going to be anyone who's like, now that's what I call a good protest, right? And I think they're the happiest with the people who don't protest at all. And why can't you just be quiet? And why can't you just wait? Just wait your turn. You're in such a rush. You're agitating so much. Your freedom's right around the corner. We'll get to you. It's the it's the maitre d' who never quite gets to sit you at your table, right? They're just like, it'll be 15, 20 minutes. You come back, okay, I'm gonna play nice. 15, 20 minutes later, yeah, I'm sorry, there's a couple at that table. They ordered another round, and it's just like, justice deferred is justice denied. And again, to an earlier point you've made on the show, just like, if you're making the powers that be happy with your protest, you're probably not protesting right, because that might be too much accommodation. So discomfort is in the nature of resistance and of standing up for yourself and of standing up for your rights. Some bully, I'm going to keep belaboring this, because like, I was bullied as a kid, just on an individual level. It wasn't like a racial thing. Everybody was Black. And if I had just never stood up for myself, then the bully would just have kept bullying me. Like, I had to risk something. I had to risk making the bully even angrier with me, risking further harm to myself, showing up like a little punk, maybe just getting beat even worse, whatever the case may be. But I would never grow. I would never be at peace with myself if I just kept living in the world according to the rules of this bully. And there's an unhealthy, perverse way of seeing, well, yeah, it just would be easier to keep getting bullied. But that's depressing and self-destructive in a different way. I might survive, but I've killed some part of myself in doing it. So yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
The thing about educational institutions, though, is that the bubble that you work within is airtight in a lot of ways, and you have to work within a certain amount of within the parameters to a certain extent, just to keep getting from one day to the next. you know. If part of your job is changing that system and the other part of your job is teaching semicolons, you might have to back down a little bit just to get to the semicolons, because you really need to teach those. And that amount of compromise, it's amazing how that compromise will eat away at you because something felt just as important. So
yeah. Well,
you're
thank
right.
you for letting us in, Jacina. Appreciate you. Take care. Tell Brooklyn I said, what's up? Let's go to Eve Blossom in the Bay Area, I believe. How are you doing, Eve? Oh, sorry. We have to work the mute magic. Still, you're muted. There we go.
Hi, I was going to share a personal thing that I have going on right now that's pretty intense due to COVID. But I want to just say Justina Reeves' words really rang true in your idea about weight. And if we have a moment, I just wanted to read Martin Luther King's words from the letter from Birmingham jail. I'm sure most people have read it, but these words are just, it could be like right now, right? For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse and kick and even kill your black brothers and sisters, yeah, and I could continue, but I just wanted to say those words because it could be right now, today, same words.
Thank you, Eve. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
My personal situation is interesting, and I would love anybody's advice on this. My beloved and I have always lived apart. And during COVID, due to financial, it makes sense to live together, and we've been together a long time and we've wanted to live together, so it makes perfect sense. So I am in the process of moving in with him. But in the meanwhile, a 30-year-old came in to live part-time, just temporarily for 5-6 weeks. And now she's been there for 4 months and she won't leave. So we have a situation where I don't really want to kick her out, but she's 30 years old and she's putting us at risk because we're older. And it's really fascinating, Daniel. Thank you for your risk assessment. I will look at that. But it's a very fascinating situation how generationally, I don't want her to stay. I mean, I've got a big heart. I have compassion, but it's not safe for us in our own home to have somebody who's out partying, so.
Wow. Yeah. I have no professional advice for you. I have friend, fellow human sympathy for that tough situation. And I hope you are able to establish something safer and more secure for you and your beloved in this situation. It sounds like a mess. I would not be surprised if somebody watching is like a real estate lawyer in Northern California that can find some further ways. If someone's kind of squatting in your crib and refusing to go, that sounds like a situation.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Because ethically, it's not about the legal, it's about safety for us. And yet she doesn't care about our safety. She's very selfish. And yet I'm trying to, it's on many different levels. So anyway.
Did you know this person beforehand?
No, we don't know her. It's a ex-friend of my beloved's son.
Right.
That we kind of, fascinating.
Ooh, well,
yeah.
I'm a fan of the surprise lock change. if it comes to that, and I hope there's smarter people who can weigh in one of the chats for you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna keep moving. Lower these hands. I think we're gonna go. There's only one more in the queue right now. That's back to North Carolina, I believe. Joseph Margolis, you still with us?
Hey, Baratunde, how are you doing this Sunday?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
Doing well. Before I get into what I really want to talk about, I have a premise that I don't know how to develop in a way that would center properly on punch up properly, but of that maybe you could work out to a comedy bit if you could make some money off of it for yourself, where there's a group of police that are judging protests based on how well they like them and giving positive critiques or something. Some kind of, I don't know how to form that premise. What are your thoughts?
I'll think about it, man. There's sort of a protest, acceptable protest Olympics, um,
Yeah, there you go.
with the hold up the card, and just to highlight the absurdity of trying to please the authorities who you're trying to demand accountability from.
And then the authority figures that are judging are speaking in all these wonderful platitudes about what they like and maybe
Yeah.
what they see better, kind of like a Toastmasters meeting. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, enough of writers rooming. Thanks
Someone on Twitter says a protest dunk contest. Thank you, Ryan Baker.
Wow, the writers room is open.
It is. We have an open apparently, but this is the new assignment. Let's see where it goes.
But in all seriousness, I really wanted to respond to what Josina had to say. It really, Josina, you really touched me with your story, because I don't feel like when you're telling the truth, you should ever have to feel small or whatever, reduce your presence. And I know that with our society, the way it's built, the way with whenever we're on Facebook or talking with our friends, we're battling deeply ingrained narratives. And I feel like, especially when I hear you say, how dare the oppressor tell us how we show up. I'm the oppressor, even though I'm trying not to be the oppressor. I'm a representation of the oppressor. Every white person who lives in America, we are all representative of the oppressor. And I think it's in our job to use that role internally to work against the oppression on behalf of the truth that we know to be. It's hard for everybody, but I feel like, as you expressed in your book, Baratunde, I mean, with all your comedic takes on, like, one of them was, I think, how to be Black at work, or how to be a Black employee. It's another layer. I have ADHD and it has affected my life. It's limited me, but I don't have it while being Black. And so that's just a totally different layer. And so I think, because fighting narratives is so difficult. Like, there's this whole thing about monuments. So where's it end? Where we take down Thomas Jefferson's monuments and bulldoze the Jefferson Memorial? I don't know, but he did rape a 14-year-old and have 6 kids with her, and that's part of his legacy too. And so, are you going to use that to contextualize, to say we shouldn't properly contextualize history? Is that the guy is that the founding father you want to use? And it's almost it's absurd because I feel like, even as a white person who tries to grapple with this, I'm a part of a certain minority, and I know even I feel gaslit, so I can't imagine what it would feel like to be a Black person and have to continue to feel gaslit. And so I feel like, as someone who really is trying to grapple with the truth, someone who has been privileged to, especially, like, hear your story, I owe it to you to show up for you now, because you're trusting me with your story. And I feel like it bothers me that what was done to you was, like, it feels traumatic to me, because you were trusting that group with your story, with who you are, with who, with how you see the world, with your narrative of the world. And whatever you said, however you said it, it wasn't your tone, it was the matter of fact. Because I'm sure if I go in the right place and say Thomas Jefferson was a rapist, it'll get a lot of people upset. I'm not saying you did that, but I just want to say I feel for you, and I see you, and I hear that, and it makes me want to do my best to really get into these type of spaces and show up and combat those narratives. And you know, I hope you will continue to share, but also continue to do what you need to do, because it, you know, we need, I know what, but you've called me to action. I feel like I really need to make sure that I'm showing up and countering these narratives even more, and especially in spaces where someone of color shows up on my behalf. If they get punched at, I need to make sure that I'm validating them, so that they don't feel like they're alone in that space and that argument that I, as a white person, provoked. So, because it does have an effect. And I really appreciate you sharing that and making yourself vulnerable to us and to me. Thank you. That's all I have there today.
Thank you, Joseph. That was amazing and really beautifully empathetic. And I appreciate almost everything that you offered us. There's the one thing I have to pick with. I'm not trying to be too rude, but like, you know, we're talking Thomas Jefferson and these statues, and we're in the United States of America, and you've got this British propaganda over your right shoulder. Keep calm and carry on. And that's not America, bro. Like, I don't know. What's that? You representing the crown? Is that what's up here?
That's
like
just something on my wall.
You got a monument to the monarchy on your wall. We're gonna tear down that monument to the monarchy. Let's start there, bro.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily for tearing down monuments or anything like that. I just I've put some thought into it. I just think we should definitely properly contextualize our founding fathers, and then we'd be ready to have such a conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you as always, Joseph. You always bring it, and I truly, I like everything you said, and I'm not going to talk much on top of it because it was great. So thank you for joining us. We'll hopefully check in next week and see which nation you're actually proud to be a part of. But, you know, I said my piece on that too, so I won't keep alleging that maybe you're a plant from the monarchy of the nation that we fought a revolutionary war to. You know, you all understand what I'm saying. I don't have to say it anymore. And I just want to share with you, Joseph, because you may not be able to see, you see the Zoom chat, but there's Shelly on Facebook says, Joseph, you're expressing yourself and sorting through similar feelings that a lot of white people are dealing with. Thanks for sharing. So you have created, or at least acknowledged, a space that a lot of people are in. You're definitely not alone in it. And as a Black person, it's thrilling to see white people wrestle with anything related to race. It's felt like such a one-sided, it's felt like a solo sport, like trying to play baseball by yourself or something. Actually, what you could do, that's a weird team sport. It's like trying to play soccer by yourself. I don't know if that one works either. It's like trying to do like a 4x100 relay by yourself. There we go. Did I mention I'm an expert in sports? Welcome to the latest episode of I'm an Expert at Sports Things with Baratunde. But yeah, it is good to see others engaging in this. So I want to read something from the Zoom chat. Jill Mansky offers this up, and it's just kind of interesting. Jill also was some names just stick in my head. Last week or the week before, Jill shared with us defund12.org with templates for communicating with your local government about your desire to take funding away from under accountable police and shift them into other areas of social support. This week, Jill brings this. So regarding looting and this term, tangential but interesting etymology lesson I learned a few weeks ago from an acquaintance named Alex Shams on social media. Loot comes from Urdu/Hindi and became English through British colonization. Alex said, quote, US and European wealth are built on the looting of other continents through slavery and colonialism. It's all connected, even in the language we use. And then there's an account, Words in Urdu, on Instagram, which said, quote, what caused the British to start using this word? Was it the centuries of plundering South Asia's natural resources and wealth? Or did the British reach for this word only when civil unrest became a powerful tool for South Asians to fight for independence? So yeah, thank you, Jill, for the etymology history lesson in that it's fascinating. And I think especially like the British have a lot to be held accountable for as well. You know, America gets a ton of focus because we're number one. It's in some of the worst things in the world in certain ways. But you know, we learned it from watching you, United Kingdom, and you know the vast reach of the British Empire and like what it took to sustain it. Even the stuff I was learning very late about Churchill and how he was responsible for obscene killings of so many folks in India through starvation, basically robbing India of food to make sure that the people of England could eat during the war, and sacrificing all these Indian troops because they were just like chum, to go back to an earlier metaphor from this. So yeah, Churchill is like a hero, he did stand up strong and tall against, well, not tall, but he stood up strong against fascism and Nazism. That's very good. But he was also a monster. And actually, I remember going to the Churchill war rooms in England 3 summers ago, and learning a whole bunch of history about this war and be like, yo, this dude was the G. But even in his own bookstore, to their credit, they had these critical nonfiction books, like just laying into him for his policies before he became prime minister. And I forgot the name of the war he fought in, but just he was very much a dehumanizer of dark people. That's just it. And if we forget that, to Joseph's point, if we do not contextualize him in totality, then we're doing history a disservice, we're doing him a disservice, and we're doing ourselves a disservice in terms of what lessons we take from the people who we think of as worthy of preservation, acknowledgement, celebration, etc. So yeah, thank you, Jill, for the lesson. Thank you, Joseph, again. Oh my goodness, my mercy! I watched this Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood yesterday. Finally, watched the Tom Hanks movie, and I just love how he expresses surprise. He's like, "Oh my, oh mercy!" He's just like so gentle with it. And so I'm looking at the time, 1600 hours here in Los Angeles, which means we are about to have to wrap this up. So I'm going to do a scan for any last minute comments from folks to see if there's anything else to drop in there. And I did have a list of things I thought I wanted to talk about, but you know how we do in this show. Oh no, I talked about the death rally and I checked in with people. There were only two things I wanted to do. Talk about the death rally, and then I ad-libbed the squirrel because that was literally moments before. That's really what we're talking about here. Okay, we got Boer War. Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's that. Always look forward. Thank you. So yeah, just to the people who've been watching, thank you, Ireland. I see you showing up again this week. I see you on Twitch, DJ Tech Jitsu. Yeah, this is nice. This is good. Oh yeah, it was Nita Rohr who had asked Justina, where's the mistake? We talked about that though. Thank you for caring. Ryan Baker says, academia is its own planet sometimes. That's the truth. Like educational institutions are by definition in a bit of a bubble. So things can be extra awkward in there. Stephen Green in Portland. What's up, brother? Oh, that's good. Stephen Green, PDX. Find him on Twitter. He just says, white folks are a lot right now. Hashtag not all white folks, but a lot. A lot of white folks are a lot right now. Jean Green, while individuals may be flawed, there is a different take on the statues that honor the representatives for a system that fought to preserve the institution of slavery. That is the problem. That's a good way to put a finer point on it. Oh yeah, PDX Stephen G. That's the Twitter account. Real good content, and it's just like a window in the Pacific Northwest and entrepreneurship and blackness and justice. Good vibes. I miss seeing people in person. So I see a name pop up on a stream here. I'm like, oh, I'm like hanging out with Brother Steven. This is cool. So with that, last comments to Zoom. And I will just quote from Patricia here. Thanks to all who have shared today. Took us all deeper necessarily during these cultural upheavals. So yeah, I'm going to flash a gallery view again. I see you. Yo, somebody's going for a walk with the ninja mask on. I see you, Kelly Daly, out there in these streets. It has a Massachusetts vibe, the housing stock. It's like, guess that city. It's not Massachusetts. I don't know where that is. You'll have to message later and let us know what we're looking at. That we could make a whole new Zoom game called Guess That City. Just put people walking down. I mean, the palm trees would give away California for Daniel. And there's some places like Palm Springs, like desert vibes. But I'm trying to, yeah, it'd be rude. I'm not going to pay you if you didn't put everybody in your life. Anyway, I don't want to say goodbye to y'all. So that's a sign. I will see you next Sunday, same time, same channels. I'm Baratunde. And on IG, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, I'll do the IG Live version of the show. Next week, I might show off my green screen. Yeah, your boy got a green screen. I'm going to be all up in Wakanda in HD. You won't even know. I'll be like another Avenger. It's going to be real. Thank you so much. Let's keep each other safe.